Longing for the ancient way, walking the ancient way, seeing the ancient way, knowing the ancient way, being the ancient way. Last talk, 2024. Bancho mentioned that a number of people were touched by the comments about the heart's aspiration. I want to elaborate a little more about that. Because the heart's aspiration is about right now. It's about today. It's about this. And in this, it's about integrity, confidence, presence. The heart's aspiration is not about doing something that people will like, or getting them to like me or approve me, or getting good feedback or accolades or appreciation. The heart's aspiration has to do with the integrity of being with this particular pile of karma, this particular bundle of being in this moment, and making it the cleanest, most authentic offering. If the heart's aspiration were not about right now, if it were not about this moment, if it were not about all of us sitting here today, right now, right here, then it would be about something in the future, and that means that today would be inferior. Today would be not there yet. Today would be, we would be adequate, we'd be better, we'd be okay, we'd be complete, we'd be whole once our aspiration has been culminated. And that means that if that's the case in the future, then what does that say about right now? Our future greatness is not a given, nor is our current inadequacy compared to that future greatness a given. If our confidence and aspiration is dependent on the future, then even when we get to the future, it's still in the future. So that aspiration for being genuine and having integrity and having the being able to settle into our own life right now is not the same as project management. It's not the same as a project that we want to accomplish. So if we have a project, we have a target, we make a plan, we want to create something that matches our idea of how what will be of benefit. We'd have a project of getting a degree or getting married or having children or putting up a pagoda or succeeding in a business, learning to play golf, buying a new non-violent electric vehicle. If we have a project, then we have, the idea, we have the steps, and we have the execution, and the project is not finished. Even if when it's finished, it can still evolve. But it's a project. And a project means every step of the way is equally important. Every step of the way counts, every step of the way. But the heart's aspiration is the same. It's this step on the way. I hope that all of you have many projects, big or small. To bake great cookies, to build a fence, to cook a meal, to organize your home, office, whatever, to go on a pilgrimage, to investigate something. And of course, those kind of things are vital, I think, for a healthy life. It's the way the brain is organized, is a predictor. It anticipates the next word, it anticipates the next thing. And so when our projects are in alignment with our vows, alignment with our way of being, then we win on both scores. But the heart's aspiration that we're talking about, again, is integrity, wholeness, genuineness. It is how can I bring the truest, most honest, clearest aspect of my life to this moment? How can I act like a Buddha now, a Bodhisattva now? How can I do my best, my inadequate best, to manifest the person I would, in my heart, like to be? That process is a total activity of now, and it's a total activity of wholehearted engagement. Wholehearted engagement, not evaluating, was I wholeheartedly engaged earlier? Will I be wholeheartedly engaged now? It's an act of wholehearted engagement now. And when we are wholeheartedly engaged in something, right there we are complete. It is the completeness of this moment, the completeness of our life, the completeness, the integrity, is this particular aspect of practice. So, if we have the aspiration to be a Buddha, a really good person, a big open-hearted person, and we do our best to manifest that with aliveness, alertness, presence, clarity, equanimity, we do our best to manifest it whether we're feeling well or not well, whether things are going poorly or wonderfully, then there's a genuineness and a satisfaction that happens regardless of what the world is doing. And that satisfaction continues forever. That harmony. The harmony to be in sync with oneself, one's life, one's circumstance. To me, that's what a life vow is about, is that deep synchronicity, deep alignment, so that we're not constantly fighting ourselves. And then, of course, the world. And if we watch people who live like this, with that kind of integrity, they often accomplish amazing things. Master Sheng Yen did, in addition to all of his retreats, in addition to Dharma Drum Mountain, in addition to colleges and everything else, he wrote 300 books in Chinese. Shoda Roshi, hundreds, thousands of retreats, perhaps tens of thousands of calligraphies, books. And the calligraphy is just an aside, just a way of supporting. And then chosen, as you all know, tens of thousands of jizos. Flowers and books, and she gets requests for ethical help all the time. The Buddhist Healthy Boundaries program that she's done, taking care of family. And all these people also have rich lives. Sadly, I mostly make naps. But people who are aligned are extraordinary in that way. When they are aligned, when they are wholeheartedly engaged with life. And then do the best now, and 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 the best outcome comes. And you still do the best. As you know, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with this step, and then this step, and 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 this step. This is the intimate experience of the Buddha Dharma. This is the vital way of its transmission. This alignment with the heart's aspiration and our life, this alignment, this wholeheartedness is intimacy. It's about being intimate. Definition of intimate, characterized by close personal acquaintance or familiarity, as in intimate friends. Relating to or indicative of one's deepest nature, intimate prayers. Essential, innermost, the intimate structure of matter. marked by informality and privacy, an intimate nightclub. Very personal, private, an intimate letter. Of or involved in a sexual relationship. Have they been intimate? Have they been in harmony? Meeting. This kind of intimacy, to be close, to know, to be one, to not have separation, to not be two, to be intimate with life, is both the manifestation of the heart's aspiration and the heart's aspiration itself. Dogen Zenji expresses this in the Genjo Koan. He says, gaining enlightenment, wherever that is, gaining enlightenment is like the moon reflecting in the water. The moon does not get wet, nor is the water disturbed. How intimate can you be with the reflection of the moon in the water? Although its light is extensive and great, the moon is reflected even in a puddle an inch across. The whole moon and the whole sky are reflected in a dewdrop in the grass, in one drop of water. He's just talking about intimacy, talking about being close. This is practice. Intimacy with our lives. And when we're intimate with our life, of course, it's got texture. It's got, the warp and weft of human beings. It's not a drone. It's not a drone. But nonetheless, it's vitally alive, but it's textured. It's as close as the moon reflected in the water. And we've heard this over and over again, but we can say on one level, the black box of our brain, sitting in this, cranium, which if it's dried and bleached and cleaned and is white, where it is right now, who knows? Sitting in this black box of our brain, this black box receives all of the inputs of photons and electromagnetic fields, and receives all the mechanical vibrations of air. And it processes it all. If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Well, until the brain has processed tree and sound, it's an irrelevant question. We make up the forest, we make up the tree, we make up the sound. This brain is at, so to speak, is at the root of all the moons and suns and peoples and trees and words. They don't exist until our information operating system has processed some kind of input and said, oh, here's an output. It gets more subtle after that. But just in the terms of intimacy, the world is actually intimate with us, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not. Everything is processed and felt right here. You can't feel the walls. You can only feel right here. And if you walk to the walls, then right here is right there. It's all intimacy. So Zazen is about the intimacy of non-separation. The intimacy of reflection. The world is, in a way, it's not quite accurate, but you get the idea. A mirror and its reflection are not separate. The world and our reflecting, our understanding of the world are not separate. We are the field of life. This is what Zazen is about, is how do we sit in a way that is inclusive and accepts, sees this, what is already true. So if we think, what is it that disrupts that from being experienced? What is it? We don't feel intimate with all things. We don't feel like the sun is the reflection of my life. What is it? Soten did a very nice job when he did this chant that we've been doing at night. What's the illusion giving rise to separation? What's the illusion? What creates the illusion that there is separation? Unseen beliefs, thoughts, opinions, judgments. The world is naturally whole and complete, lacking nothing. It's naturally one seamless body. But our mind gets confused at some level. And we start getting afraid. We start judging, and we start separating, and we start cocooning, and we start worrying. And then it truly is the experience of alone and afraid in a world we never made. But perhaps that's just a dream. That's not even the reality. That's just a dream. And so Zazen is about cutting through the dream. Can it be the world that we just created? At least this world of separation and alienation is just a dream that we just made up. We do Zazen to drop, to see through, to let go of those unhappy opinions and give rise to great compassion. Knowing what is true before all those thoughts, before we are deluged and the world is obfuscated or obscured by all those thoughts. Before that is an isness, changing constantly, providing, pervading everything, unbounded. Freedom rests before this nightmare. And that's Zazen, to rest before the nightmare, or to see through the nightmare. Or one of the analogies of waking up is you're caught in a nightmare and then you wake up and you realize, oh, it was all a dream, it was all a nightmare. And suddenly your view of it has shifted. That shifting view is part of waking up. Or it's not even a shifting view, it's a dropping of view. We're caught in a nightmare and we wake up and suddenly realize, oh, it's just a dream. Just a dream. And of course, the other model is that we have our dry clothing and we're out walking in the mist. And we're walking in the mist, and little by little the mist begins to penetrate our clothing. And we walk long enough and we rest in the truth of the mist long enough, and we're permeated with it. And we no longer remember the dry state. Let's look at a koan. This is from the Mumon Kan, Gateless Gate, we talked about before, 12th century. Case number 11. Joshu sees the true nature of two hermits. Joshu was the great Zen master of Tang Dynasty, and whether these stories are apocryphal or whether they were made up in the Song Dynasty, and they're refined teaching stories that have many points to them. And the points of all the koans are not necessarily what you see on the surface, but you have to actually be intimate with the koan. You have to put yourself in Joshu's mind, put yourself in the other player's mind, and then from that mind you begin to look at the the koan. Joshu, at the end of the Tang Dynasty, there was some massive persecutions of dharma. Thousands, hundreds of thousands perhaps, of ordained people were laicized, were killed. Tens and tens of thousands of temples and centers and monasteries were taken over or burnt or whatever. And many people had gone and continued their practice regardless of the circumstances. You know, one of the reasons that the Zen school has thrived throughout the difficulties of challenges of persecutions is that it's not about the institution. It doesn't need a cathedral. It's about our intimate investigation of reality. And so if the structure that supported that intimate investigation of reality gets disrupted or changed, we can go and practice somewhere else. We can go off into the woods and practice. We can go, practice lots of ways. Well, in this time of persecution, many people had dispersed, and these two monks were out practicing by themselves. And Joshu was on a pilgrimage, and he was checking out people. And here's the koan. Joshu came to a hermit and said, "Are you in? Are you in?" The hermit held up his fist. Joshu said, "The water is too shallow to anchor a vessel here," and went away. Then he came to another hermit and called out, "Are you in? Are you in?" This hermit also held up a fist. And Joshu said, "You are free either to give or to take away, to either kill or to give life." And Joshu bowed to him. Mumon's commentary, both held up their fists. Why did he approve the one and disapprove the other? Tell me, where is the core of the complication? If you can give a turning word on this point, you will see that Joshu is unrestrained in saying what he wants to say and utterly free to either help the one raise up or to push the other down. Be that as it may, you do not know that it was Joshu. On the contrary, whose true nature was seen by the two hermits? If you say the one hermit is superior to the other, you have not yet got the Zen eye. If you say there is no difference between the two, you have not yet got the Zen eye either. Poem. His eye is like a shooting star. His eye is a shooting star. His spirit is lightning, a sword to kill, a sword to give life. So we have this this koan, it's not a teaching story, but this place to investigate. And we have a hermit practicing, doing zazen. He gets a visitor. And the visitor asks him a question, a genuine question, a non-dual question. What's going on? You there? What's happening? Respond. And the hermit holds up his fist, responds. Doesn't say yes, no, doesn't say good, bad, doesn't say I'm here, and I just says, right here. And Joshu says, water is too shallow, and walks away. And then he comes to another hermit, another ascetic, another shamanera, and does the same thing. Hermit holds up a fist too. This time, Joshu says, "Oh, how wonderful, how wonderful." Such a deep mind. And bows. So we have to understand what's going on in these things. First off, we look at the two hermits. No two things are ever exactly alike. You can take a pie and one of those metal pie slicers, that will slice the pie into 6 or 8 pieces, and you stamp it down, and it theoretically cuts every pie slice exactly the same. But if you look at them, they're still different. One's higher, one's lower, one's more crumbly, one's less crumbly, one's got more this on it, less of that on it. Things are always different. So the first question here is, what is the difference between these two monks that did the same thing? And that's one of the koans for our life. There's lots of people who have different jobs in the monastery. And some people do the same job one way, and some people do the same job the other way. What's the difference? Why would Joshu bow to one and not to another? Hold up the same fist. This is about, we go back to our heart's aspiration. We go back to integrity. We go back to wholeheartedness. Someone who has integrity and wholehearted engagement can clean the toilets, can sweep the floors, can bake. And the outcome is different if someone is not wholehearted, if is half-hearted, is kind of, got to do it, so I'll do it, and is trudging through it. The outcome is different. The behavior may be exactly the same. So this is about our life, how we are meeting our life. Now, with wholehearted engagement, when we think our life matters, when we think this moment matters, when we think I have one opportunity to meet this moment, and we are doing our very best to wholeheartedly engage in that moment, that has a very different outcome. And that kind of heart aspiration is what we're use the example of the great teachers. That's the kind of zazen. Are we doing zazen wholeheartedly aligned? Are we doing our inadequate best, our incomplete best to continue to come back, to not let the mind just flutter off? Or are we putting on a good show? We've kind of given up inside. The outcome is different, even though the whole room looks very similar. So that's the first challenge of this particular koan. How do we live our life? The second challenge of this koan, it looks like Joshu comes and he's saying, "Oh, you are really nowhere. Forget you. You're out of here. What a waste of time. Nothing can anchor here." And it looks like he's saying to somebody else, "Oh, good job, way to go." But there are many ways that things can be said. There are many ways. And there are different intentions. We don't really know. So suppose one practitioner is a very strong, centered, capable practitioner. Doesn't really need any puffing up or praise. Maybe you need some challenge. Maybe you say, "Oh, you're full of yourself, forget it. Waste of time." Or maybe somebody else is doing the same thing and is quivery and needs support. You say, "Oh, good job, keep going." Or maybe it's just the reverse. Somebody's doing a really good job and you say, keep going, good job. And somebody else is flagging and you say, you're really flagging, you're not putting your heart into it. We can't know. So we have two people doing the same thing with different states of mind, and they get different responses. How they deal with that response is what practice is. If we are praised, how we work with praise is practice. If we are criticized, how we work with criticism is practice. If we are ignored, how we work with ignorance, being ignored, is practice. Do we take it personally, I mean my? Or do we say, okay, here's a challenge, a compliment, an obstacle, a test? So we've got both people doing the same thing with different states of mind, with different challenges that come towards them. The fact that someone is praised is not necessarily good. The fact that someone is criticized is not necessarily bad. We don't really know. It can't be known. We can only know for ourselves. Am I engaging and using everything that comes towards me as practice? When we have this kind of wholehearted engagement in practice, when we have this kind of alignment in practice, before I go there. So then we look at this koan with Joshu. So Joshu, one of the great Chan masters of all of China, many, many koans about him, he's an exemplar at many, many different levels, has the capacity to meet each circumstance, has the capacity to perhaps praise and help, perhaps to challenge, perhaps to ignore, has the capacity to be adaptable. And so this is Joshu's practice too, is Joshu, can he adapt himself to the meeting, to the circumstances of the different people? Can we adapt ourselves? And what's the criterion for us adapting? Is it of benefit to someone's liberation? Is it helpful for someone recognizing the true nature of mind? Does it encourage people to keep going, to keep... And sometimes challenge is really helpful. And sometimes encouragement is really helpful. And it's not always true that the same thing works. So for us to be adaptable, to kind of try to look at a situation as carefully as we can and say, okay, if I have wholehearted engagement here, how can I adapt myself so that there's benefit? So that, and by benefit we mean so that harmony, wisdom, loving kindness, insight, and of course we screw up. Of course. But that's the challenge on one side is always that wholehearted engagement in whatever comes. The challenge on the other side is that wholehearted attempt, endeavor to adapt, to meet things for the highest purpose. Not about to get people to like me. It's not worth much. So when we're doing Zazen and we drop that attempt to try to get people to like us, try to manipulate people into making them think what we think we want them to think about us. I mean, how much manipulation do we do to try to, look at people, dress, and we try to dress and address people. We try to give things, or we try to, play a particular part so that people will look at us in a way we think we want them to look at us. It's kind of hopeless. It's kind of hopeless. Everybody sees us how they see us. So that particular kind of regard is not so important. But what is important is that our aspiration for our engagement has this intention of awakening, of inspiring other people to awaken, of supporting the container that inspires and helps and promotes other people to awaken as best we can. Always inadequate, always off. That's just a given. But nonetheless, the intention is there, and it's the intention to practice wholeheartedly, the intention to adapt ourselves, the intention to meet each circumstance so that the best outcome is there, is part of practice. When we're doing this particular meeting, it's about intimacy. It's about harmony. It's about no separation. And when that is our attitude, that's the way we work, then the outcome is cooperation. And the outcome is we have a group of people who are endeavoring to work together for not just to be nice to one another, which is not bad, but we're endeavoring to work together so that the project that we're working on can be accomplished. And in that harmony, in that intimacy, is a joy. And in that wholehearted practice, and that forgetting ourselves, because we are endeavoring to make everyone become wise or open-hearted, that forgetting ourselves is the foundation of the four immeasurables, the four divine abidings, the four Brahma-viharas. And when the four Brahma-viharas, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, compassion, and equanimity, when those four are the foundation of our life, everything goes better. Goes better for us, goes better for other people. And as I mentioned earlier, I think, in a way, sympathetic joy is kind of the most obvious challenge. We have a department here called the Hospitality Department. The Hospitality Department is founded upon sympathetic joy. It's founded upon, let's make this place beautiful, clean, open, so that anybody who comes here will feel welcome, will feel pleasure, will feel joy. Let's practice making other people welcome and happy. And in that practice of making other people welcome and happy, when they have a good time, there's something that feels good to us. That sympathetic joy, that resonance. We'll come to the end of the retreat, whatever we're doing, the sesshin, and everybody will be happy tomorrow. I guarantee it. Even if you're not, you'll be happy tomorrow. At least for a few minutes. And for those of us who've been around, it's joyful. It's lovely to see people thriving and bright and clear. And then we have people coming in for the Sunday program, and they are welcomed, and they feel happy. And then our happiness radiates to them and radiates and radiates. The practice of sympathetic joy is the practice of hospitality. The practice of compassion is maybe you have to deal more with suffering, the suffering of people. Loving kindness has to do with the equality of the warm openness to all things. So this practice of Zazen is practical. It is personal. And if we do it and we keep doing it and endeavoring to do it in a skillful way, and we soften and we open, then there is a pleasure in it. And a pleasure in watching other people begin to discover that really they're not trapped. They're not trapped. They're not broken. Nobody is really broken. And to discover that you are not broken, that you are not inadequate, that you are not incomplete, is liberation. And then to help people and to watch that process happen is inherently rewarding for the people who are endeavoring to hold the container and inspire. And it goes around and around. Harmony begets harmony. Wisdom begets wisdom. So the practice that we've been doing all week, or however long it's been, this practice is not just something, okay, we'll do it, the bell will ring and I'll stop doing it. But rather, this is an exercise, this is a skill training, so that we can take this attitude of mind, the attitude of mind of wholehearted engagement with sympathetic joy, and we can take it into Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And then, of course, it gets depleted and covered over by the exigencies of life and by our own confusion. And so then we come back and we practice some more. And then as with this process goes on, our confidence, our clarity, and our capacity to be able to meet other people grows. This is not just about you, but when we do this in the way we're talking about, it becomes about your family, your friends, and the world.